No one tells you when it happens. There is no warning. No sound. No clear sign that something important just shifted. It doesn't arrive like a decision. It doesn't feel like a turning point. It feels like nothing, and that is why it works. If you try to remember the moment your life really changed, your mind probably jumps to obvious events. A breakup, a loss, a win, a move, but the truth is quieter than that. The real change happened earlier, in a moment you barely noticed, a moment that didn't look important enough to remember. That moment didn't change your life all at once. It changed you, and everything else followed later. It was an ordinary day, not good, not bad. You woke up and followed the same routine, the same movements, the same thoughts. Your body already knew what to do before your mind caught up. You checked your phone, you scrolled, you replied. You moved through the day on autopilot, the way you had been doing for a long time. Nothing demanded your attention. Nothing felt urgent, nothing broke the flow. And somewhere inside that ordinary rhythm, a small shift happened. Not dramatic. Not emotional. Just quiet. It didn't stop you. It didn't scare you. It simply made something feel different. You might not have noticed it at first. Most people don't. It could have happened while someone was talking to you, and you realized you were smiling, but not feeling anything behind it. Or when you read a message that once would have meant everything, and now it felt like text on a screen, or maybe it happened in silence. No trigger. No reason. Just a sudden awareness that arrived without explanation and didn't leave. This feels different. You didn't say it out loud. You didn't think about it for long. You pushed the feeling aside. Because the day kept moving, you still had things to do. People to answer. Places to be. Life didn't pause for your awareness. So you didn't pause either. You kept going. That is how these moments hide. They don't interrupt your life. They blend into it. From the outside, nothing changed. You were still the same person to everyone else. Same tone. Same habits. Same role in their lives. But inside, a distance formed, not from people, from an older version of yourself. The version that waited longer than necessary. The version that explained too much. The version that believed effort would always be met halfway. That version didn't disappear. It just stopped leading. You didn't feel brave after that moment. You didn't feel powerful. You felt tired in a new way. Not exhausted, resolved. There is a difference. Exhaustion wants rest. Resolution wants alignment, but not loud alignment. Not dramatic change, quiet alignment. The kind no one notices at first. You didn't confront anyone that day. You didn't walk away. You didn't make a bold choice. You simply stopped pushing against a truth you already knew. And when you stop pushing, things begin to shift on their own. Over the next few days, nothing fell apart. That is what makes this kind of change confusing. Life didn't punish you. It didn't reward you. Everything looked the same, but you started responding differently. You replied slower. You shared less. You stopped filling silences that weren't yours to fill. You didn't announce boundaries. You lived them. No one noticed at first. Quiet changes rarely get immediate reactions. They show up later, when people realize something feels different. But they can't explain why. You felt it too. Things that once felt urgent now felt optional. Things that once felt heavy now felt distant, not because they mattered less, but because you finally understood where they belonged. That understanding didn't come with words. It settled into you quietly, like just after movement stops. That moment didn't give you clarity. It gave you alignment, and alignment doesn't make noise. It just makes resistance uncomfortable. You might remember trying to go back, trying to feel the same attachment, the same excitement, the same hope, but it didn't work, not because you were broken, because you had already crossed a line. Once you see a pattern clearly, You cannot return to misunderstanding it. That moment taught you something without teaching you. It didn't explain. It didn't justify. It simply showed you the truth as it was, not as you wanted it to be. And that truth stayed. Later, when things finally changed on the outside, people might assume that was the beginning. They will point to a breakup. A decision, a move, a loss. But you will know better. You will know it started long before. In a moment no one remembers. The moment you stopped negotiating with yourself. The moment you realized that waiting was also a choice. The moment you understood that comfort and familiarity are not the same thing. You didn't become colder. You became clearer. And clarity often looks like distance to people who benefited from your confusion. From that point on, you began choosing yourself in quiet ways. Not the kind people clap for, the kind people barely notice. You stopped over-explaining. You stopped chasing closure from people who never offered it. You stopped shrinking to keep peace, not out of anger, out of acceptance. Acceptance doesn't shout. It settles. That moment didn't feel like growth. Growth is obvious in hindsight, never in real time. In real time, it feels like something slipping away. And something did slip away. An old illusion. An old expectation. An old hope that wasn't rooted in reality. You didn't mourn it properly. You just adjusted. That is how adults grieve things they were never meant to keep. Years later, you might try to remember when you became this version of yourself. More careful, more selective. More aware. Many moments will come to mind, but if you are honest, you will feel pulled back to that one quiet point. The moment that didn't hurt enough to remember. The moment that didn't demand change. It simply made staying the same impossible. That moment didn't deserve a story at the time. But it became the foundation for everything that followed. Every boundary you set later, every decision you made faster, every situation you walked away from without guilt. They all trace back to that unnoticed shift. The moment you realized something inside you had already moved on. And here is the part no one talks about. If you could go back to that moment now, knowing how much would change because of it, you still wouldn't stop it, because nothing bad happened. Something honest did, and honesty, once felt, cannot be undone. One day, you will look at your life as it is now, and feel grateful for a moment you barely noticed, not because it was painful, not because it was loud, but because it was real. The one moment that changed you, without you knowing, was the moment you finally started listening. And once you listen, everything changes, even when it looks like nothing ever did.